the staff saying, you know what, this policy has changed, please make sure that you're up to date on it so that people know that it's changed at the end of the day? How are the employees notified? And the reason I'm asking that is, from my perspective, I would like, as a council, you know, if you could include council with, here's the new policy, if anybody has questions, you can look at it, right? And take a look at it. So council knows that there's been a change and what the change is, just like staff wants to know what the change is. If council knows, they're in the loop, and for me, that would be okay. At least we know that there's been a change. Otherwise, we might not ever know some of these things have changed.
So typically, I think we have changed one policy on personnel side. So usually what happens in most places I work is when you do your annual performance appraisal, you make sure staff have the familiarity with what's there. So that's the one opportunity when people sign off that they're actually seen them. And obviously things to be more timely. And so when a new policy is produced, that would go out to the managers, and this is what we're planning on doing, to the managers, and talk about it with the staff when it's unveiled. So there's a sign-off process. There's also a discussion at the team level. So that's what I'm used to, and that's what I would continue with. Okay. Is there any initiatives from your side, at least notifying council that this policy has been changed? No. Yeah. No issue. That's what I would be happy with. I see Councillor Stenhouse and Councillor Kilroy had their hands up.
So, we're listening to these discussions. With your last question, Mayor, you're dabbling again where you shouldn't be. We are to make policy and govern the town, the residents. We're not to be involved in personnel policies. That is what our CAO is for. We make the policies for the town and the residents and the bylaws. If you're asking to get copies and know when changes are made and stuff, that is not our business. If you want to know, you have to go on the website and look it up on what the town policy is.
I'll respond to that, Judy, just because what I would like to know, like there could be I agree with you, I don't really want to be here. Let's make that clear first of all, but I do want some way of knowing what's changed so that if something's changed, how would we ever know? And we can't even bring it up at a performance appraisal because we don't know what's changed, what the CAO and the management team has done, if we don't know any of those. All I want to know is that we be notified, and then if there are issues, we can address them to our CAO afterwards. That's where I'm coming from. Just so that we know this has changed and where it's coming from. That's, I don't want us to approve it.
You're not an employee of the town. These are employee policies. These are not council policies. These are employee policies.
Correct. And we hold the CAO responsible for those policies. Changes the CAO is making to those policies, how can we evaluate the student? Councilor Gilbert?
Mr. Mayor, go ahead. You're really frozen. We couldn't hear hardly anything you said here. I don't think anybody else could hear you.
Oh.
So if you could, I can't everybody shake, a few people are shaking their head, you gotta do a repeat.
I got a poor connection. Imagine that. I can't imagine. But I guess what I was just responding to Councillor Stenhouse is saying, you know what, I agree, that's not where we need to be. Our role is to evaluate our CAO and see how our CAO is doing. However, if we don't know what the CAO is doing and what policies and procedures are changing, how will we know if our CAO is doing a good job? That's where I'm coming from. And if they just send us an email saying, here's the policies that we've changed, to me, I would be happy with that, and we could judge if we thought those policy changes were good or bad. Not that we're creating the policies, we're not doing them, but we can assess whether it was good or bad. So, I'll turn it over, Councillor Gilroy and then Councillor Dinac. Because Councillor Gilroy's got to be patient.
Which is unusual, but I have to wait patiently. Rod, a suggestion, sort of a middle of the road suggestion from what I've been listening to. One of the committees I'm on behalf of the town, when we are first put on that committee, we are given a booklet, sort of like your employee handbook that you were talking about. And then, as changes are made, we're just given pages to replace it with. So if a policy change, you just send them the pages, take out the old one, put the new one in. That might be able to keep everything updated and then keep one for anyone in the council who wants to look at it in office. And I think that'd be the minimum amount of disruption because you're talking about a once a year thing. I think that might be the easiest way to go about this so that I believe everyone would be happy. Just my
Okay, Councillor Danaka.
Alright, okay, I don't know why, I'm not sure why this is such a hard issue to differentiate. Governance, personnel policy. I mean, so, whoever the CAO is at the time, he's gonna send us a thing that says, okay, we changed the cell phone policy to this. Okay? It's not up to us to say, well, hold on here, like you change this to whatever. Because it's an administrative policy. If we can't trust our administration, be it either whoever the CAO is at the time or whoever the financial officer is at the time, then that's a problem. You know, like, if we can't trust our administration to do what they need to do, then that tells me that there's a problem. And I don't think we need to get that involved in this stuff, because it doesn't necessarily concern us. I mean, you were facetious in saying that, you know, like the staff Christmas appreciation, somebody could get $25,000. I mean, I know you were being facetious in that comment, but I don't think we need to be spending this much time on this issue when it's clearly administrative and doesn't involve us. It's not our area that we need to worry about, the cell phone policy, the computer devices, and those things that deal with the employees of the town that we as council don't really deal with. I'm struggling here with what you're asking and the delineation between governance and administrative.
All right, I mean, and it's just my opinion, so to take it, I'm not, I don't want to, I'll just sort of try again. One of our rules in administration, I see Aaron wants to move on, yes, one of our roles as council is to evaluate the CAO. One of the goals of the CAO is to keep the policies and procedures up to date. How do we know if he is doing that if we don't know what the changes are? That's my whole principle. And we'll take one because he hasn't had to speak, and that's Councillor Long, and then we'll move on.
100% understand where your concerns are coming from, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Courtney. And I have some of the concerns as well. But that being said, Councilor Stenhouse and Danaka are spot on. This is an administrative issue. It certainly isn't one that falls within our purview within the MGA or any other document. And I would think we don't want to be involved with cell phone policies and this and that. We've already had concerns with our new CAO and concerns with staff feeling comfortable or too comfortable with council and coming to us with issues and whatever the case may be. That's probably a good lesson saying that maybe we were a little bit too close and that we need to adhere to the MGA a little more closely. Our spidey senses will go off and absolutely, but I think that it's a small town. And if we do our evaluations to the CAO regularly, then that as well will be better, give us a better tool to see what he or she has done in that year's time.
Okay, thank you. We've gone around on this for now. We have the motion from Councillor Stenhouse to rescind these policies. All in favor? Opposed? It is carried. I would ask that administration keep council just informed with an email when things have changed, but that would be just my preference. Okay, moving on then to secondary signs to recognize accomplishments. Can I get a motion on that, Councillor Gilbert?
Actually, I just want to change the council begin a discussion on the advertisement of the individual and or team accomplishments. So that's what I want to do for my motion. So I'd like to discuss it just for 5 minutes of other possible solutions, options. So I guess the option 2. But I'd like to actually talk before we direct the administration to provide the sign options as well as locations for permanent recognition sign.
Okay, well, why don't you get us started? You must have some ideas today.
I don't know. See, the problem I'm having with location is the rule that Alberta Transport has the option to approve of any structures within a certain range of the highway. Because what I would suggest is we have 2 really good planters out there at the beginning, like one right by the river, where the bridge building, and that nice planter there. And then that's it, that's on there. Right behind there, we could put that sign. Or when we're coming in the other way across from Grimshaw, we have the other planter that's with beautiful flowers. Could we put a permanent sign there, and it wouldn't, because originally we were talking about putting it by the entry sign. This is within the town, but it would enhance, I think, areas where it should be very highly visible, but I don't think it would impede traffic sites or stuff like that. So I was thinking those 2 spots would be high traffic, but at least it'd be places to start a discussion on it.
I'll turn it over to our CAO.
The rules of public transportation are this. We have no ability to put any signs, such as this, within their right of ways. So if the areas you're talking about are not owned by Alberta Transportation, it's an option then. But if it is within the existing right of way that's in the ownership of Alberta Transportation, they will not give us approval for it. So if you wanted to do something say, even on our land, on the highway, you have, ability there, but not within the right of way. Just that, okay, I'm not sure if the areas you're talking about is within Alberta
No,
conservation land or ours.
Yeah, I'm looking at the fact that the one by the river, you have a green space, a sidewalk, and then back beyond the, a grassy area, and then you have that planter. And I was thinking behind that planter, I think that should be part of the fact that it should be a problem with Alberta transport. The same with the other one, it's far back that I can't see it being a traffic hazard.
As long as it's not on their land. That's the clear distinction I got from it. So if it's on our land, we have to show the still card where it is. But if that's their land, the answer will be no. If it's ours, that's
So does that mean they can come in tomorrow and say, remove those planters that we have?
sometimes
it's on their land?
sometimes it's better not to ask. I can tell you that I asked specifically about signs and what we can and can't put up. And yes, we are permitted an entrance sign to the community, like High Prairie, but any additional signs is not. And
Councillor Stenhouse?
I just want to respond to Councillor Gilroy. You need to get under your back because planters are only so high. When you're asking for a sign, there's a height, there's different dimensions and stuff. Do we actually own that town or does it belong to the government? Like, I think you're putting the CAO in a tough spot here by saying that we should put up that sign. We need to know who actually owns that land and what the restrictions are. And if transportation says no, it's no. We can't force them. And I like the idea of the electronic sign because things change from week to week, month to month, different accomplishments. It's very easy with an electronic sign to change these things. We put up a permanent sign, it's gonna take a lot of more effort and labor and dollars to keep changing these signs. That's all I have to say on.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this one? Councillor Tanaka?
It would be nice if we could have a type of permanent fixture, but as Councillor Stano said, things change. I mean, just as an example, you have to honor the Red Wings in their championship. We've had the Cornhole League that won in Ontario. They won I think it was the singles or the doubles from here. So you're ending up, how are you going to change out all of these signs? I mean, yes, the electronic sign might not get the exposure that you want, but as Councillor Stenhouse said, things change continually. And I mean, if we can put that on our website or on our Facebook page saying, honoring, this week is the Red Wings for their championship and then the names of the people that won with the Cornhole Championship in Ontario that were from here, just to let people know that we have these people who've accomplished these things, and it's nice to tout them in your town, but I guess, the electronic sign is probably the most feasible and easiest to work with.
All right, Councillor Courtney is smiling, he must have something. Okay.
What was the name of the sport, Donna?
The Cornhole, Cornhole League, like, come on.
What is called that?
It's like, what they call it,
I'm bugging you.
yeah, go play, go play.
It's my last meeting, I gotta give you a hard
No,
time.
there's one more.
Alright, I guess. we don't need to reinvent the wheel by putting a bunch of big signs in different places that are gonna be hard for somebody later on to be changing and maintaining and carrying on. So we can use our electronic sign. I think it's, utilization. Good. That's my opinion.
I think putting, the cornhole championship up on the sign is well spent, time well spent.
Councilor Gilroy?
Get your mind
I'd
out
like
of that.
Councilor Zanaka's idea, a website, dedicating, part of the website to recognize these things. But I guess the one major advertisement I was looking at was the rodeo. We're the home of this rodeo, or we're the home of something like that. Recognize that. Even if you had to, with the Elks' permission, maybe you put it underneath our electronic sign, just another sign that says home of High Prairie rodeo or something like that. It is one of our biggest attractions. And I know Councilor Stenhouse is going to say I'm wrong, but that's okay because we are one group here. But if she was right, Councilor Stenhouse was right, that I did not know who owned the land. It was a suggestion, and I acquiesced to her comments on that.
Councilor Stenhouse?
We are not home of the rodeo. We have spent thousands of dollars on a tagline and rebranding. We are the heart of Big Lake.
Okay, we have a motion to have a discussion. We've had the discussion. I'm going to suggest we vote on this, to close that motion, and then we can maybe make another motion. But we'll start with Councilor Gilroy's motion to have a discussion. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Does anybody else want to make a motion at this point? Councilor Courtney?
The council support the advertisement of individual and or team accomplishments on the town's electronic sign.
All right, Councilor Gilroy?
Did Councilor Courtney want to include our website in that motion? So we can talk about recognition on the website, or just strictly the electronic sign?
You know what, adding the website's not a bad thing. No, for sure, we should have a tab on the website, supporting any, individual or team accomplishments. I'm for that, absolutely.
Okay, so you amended your motion to add to the town's website?
Town's website and town's electronic sign.
All right. Any further discussions or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Moving on then to Canadian Fiber, item 6.3. And a motion on this one. Councilor Wortley was first. Councilor Gilroy, this one, I saw his finger first.
The council directed administration to propose the best funding model, the obligations in the letter of intent.
All right. Any questions on this one? Comments? I know we talked about this at our special meeting at council. All right, seeing none, all in favor? Carried. This one I'm sure will have a little bit more discussion. This is our addendum that was added, item 6.4, the COVID update. And it's to discuss the exemption consideration. Maybe, can I get a motion to start this one? Councillor Daneka?
So I make a motion the council direct administration to implement the restrictions exemption program within the two arenas and the aquatic center as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'll just add, or maybe I'll turn it over to our CAO to tell us what's changed since our last discussion and, 2 weeks ago. Or a week ago.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, yes, there's been a little bit more work done on follow-up from that discussion. We did proceed to the joint rec on Monday to seek direction from the joint rec committee, and that's included in the report. We've done a little bit more research on the impact of the implementing the exemption, and generally, I think this is what we believe would happen. Some of it is included in the report. There is the opportunity, if this was implemented, yes, buildings would be closed to people without vaccination or proof that they've had tests within the last 2 hours. It would permit adults to play. However, recreation superintendent did some quick calls today. Again, this is kind of on the fly, right? Things change all the time. Did some calls with regards to the adults leagues to see if this exemption were put into place. We have some teams. I think well, you may have to chime in here. There's about 7 or 8 adult teams, of which I think around 2 have indicated. Oh, I missed your 7 or 8. Of which 2, and I think you sent me an email. There's 6. Okay, 6, and 2 have indicated that they would likely rent ice, and 4 no. The Red Wings, we've also chatted with them, because that would impact those folks. At this stage, they're permitted to operate at 30% capacity, which is about 300 people. They have indicated that they do not want, I'll call it the passport system. I think that's easier to start with last go around. They do not want the passport system implemented, and they also indicated that if the passport system was implemented, that, I don't want to put words in mouth. I think the exact quote from Mona was that they would move the team if that was implemented. Is that an actual quote? I just don't want to misquote the Red Wings.
Yes, he did say that he would probably take them to BC, and he has been really good. He's been paying for his ice before they use it. We're getting over $1,000 a week from that. Would be a huge loss, and he's got 22 invoices to pay because we're getting it weekly. That's a lot of money.
So, and we do know that we have some parent, I think other child swings that if the passport were to be put in, that parents would require vaccination as well. So it is about $2,500 or so in that. Use the averages. I think we get 52% now. The majority of people in town do have at least one vaccination. Using that math though, maybe 50% of the there was some interesting things that occurred today at 3:30. The premier made another announcement, more to do with hospitals, the protection of workers, and protests. The press conference did go on for well over an hour and a half. I was watching. They did plead with rural communities, and they did specifically mention the Peace region, as far as our vaccination rates being one of the lowest in the province and also the country, and pleading with those in this region to get vaccinated due to the hospitals being at 100% capacity. So it is a very difficult situation to be pros, cons, and, regardless of the decision, there are impacts on both sides. I think that's, really, really evident, and no matter what, decision is made, there are impacts. Like Ramona, want to add a couple comments?
Thank you. Gymnastics does not want it either. Even the lady that came to our joint rec committee meeting, a couple weeks ago, she is not getting vaccinated. So that would, put a wrench into that, and, they are getting going. And minor hockey is kind of on the fence. They said they'll go along with it. What I'm worried about, and I think Councillor Courtney agrees with me from our meeting the other day. We have parents not vaccinated bringing 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds who need their skates tied or their swimming suits put on or have to be in the water with their parents. We're just gonna be a ghost town. In my opinion, I mean, I will do whatever council directs, but I don't think it would be very good for us at this point, and maybe that will change, but things have been going pretty good the way they are. And I know our concession operator is also in favor of not doing it.
All right, Councillor Gilroy?
A couple questions. One would be, so if one of our next items here is to try to get more ice time purchased in the day, especially during the schools, anyone over age of 12, and that province moves it down to 5-11, would the schools then have to prove that the high schoolers who are going to use the property, use the facilities, have to be told that they are of 12 and above? They would be considered to, in by all logistics, they'd be considered the ones that have to be double vaccinated because that's the general policy. So I'm really questioning that, but at the same time, I will say what I said last time. If we could do alternate days where all vaccinated, where if and the unvaccinated people who don't care, they can go out 7 days a week. I'm just, because otherwise I still believe we're setting up a section of segregation. There are enough incentives outside that are going to get people to be double vaccinated. Do anything to do with the hospital or different government workers or whoever, you have to be double vaccinated, whether you like it or not. So I'm looking at the fact that everyone, vaccinated or not, pay for this service. And I don't like the idea of making the segregation. So I would not be in favor of putting the this in approving this. I'd be against it.
Councillor Stenhouse?
So I got a couple questions. I don't know who I'm directing them to. So I'm trying to get up to speed on this, on what you're trying to implement. So what you're trying to implement is only those with double vaccination can go to town-owned facilities.
I can maybe address that one a little bit, is that, no, it wasn't necessarily double vaccinated, it was to start an exemption program. And most of the people aren't starting with saying you need double vaccinations, you would start with a single vaccination. There would be notice of a time frame before which you would have to be double vaccinated. So you would say as of a certain date, anybody that's entering this facility would have to have at least their first dose. And then after a certain date, sometime in the future, then they would have to have their second dose.
Okay. So here's my next question. Is why are you just saying, if this is a council decision, why are you just saying the rec department? Why are you not including all town it's going for the rec department?
So you froze up on my machine, Judy, but I think your question was why just recreation and not other facilities? Is that? Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. This is gonna be a council decision for the town of High Ferry. Why are you not including all town of High Ferry owned buildings?
Well, we certainly could. I mean, that's something that we could add to the list. We started with these ones because, I guess they're the ones that would have the most impact.
Okay, so these are just some questions, but, my comment here is no. So, well, actually, no, I have one more question. So the people.
I'm freezing up. Because everybody else is frozen on my machine, so I'm assuming that I'm frozen, but are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So here's my next question. So the taxpayers who pay the bill for the pool and the arena and don't have a vaccination are not allowed to go, but they're still gonna pay taxes to support it? I don't know, am I froze or what? What's going on here? Somebody talk to me.
I think I can answer that question. So, everybody hear me?
Yeah. The mayor's gone, but.
So vaccination, that's when you get to the door, or the alternative is to have the test. So there's you go and do the test, and if you're COVID-free, you get that test. 72 hours after the fact, you can use the facilities. That's one of the mechanisms to get to the door if you don't have vaccination.
Okay, so for the people who don't want vaccination, they no longer have to pay taxes to support this, is that how this is gonna work, or no, they still have to support these facilities that they're not allowed to enter?
The principal property taxation would change. Lots of things that, your taxes go towards, and some people use those facilities and some don't. A portion of your taxes goes to utilities, or go to libraries, a portion goes to parks, a portion goes to recreation facilities, and different people use different services. So there's no change to the overall property taxation methodology, which is again governed through the Municipal Government Act.
This does not include libraries, museums, or any of those. It's only including the rec department. So, okay, so this whole package is not sitting well with me. It's either include it all, or, I just want to make one comment on it, okay?
No, I just want to answer some of your questions.
Okay, okay, go ahead.
This is all mandated from the province. So that recreation facilities in general, they've downloaded this to the municipalities to make this decision. Instead of just coming out and saying, here's what has to happen. So like they did with the restaurants and any other facility. They downloaded this to the municipal governments to say, you get to decide what you do, whether you do the passport system or you do the no passport, let everybody in your facility, but you have to 30% capacity maximum. So this is what's going on. Libraries are exempt. They're exempt from this. It's stated right in the provincial legislation that was brought down. They're exempt. And us as a municipality have to do one or the other, and we have to choose. So that's why we're choosing, and that's why we chose, if we stayed with 30%, if we stayed with the status quo right now, 3%, and that's what came out of the meeting was, if you stay that way, then there's no adult sports. If you go to the card, if you go to the other system, then adult sports can rent the ice, they can swim, they can do everything, but you have to present the card. Right? But if you go to 30% capacity, adult sports are 0 in the arena. That make sense?
It does make sense, but I don't like it.
Oh,
Because
I don't think it either.
all it is doing is government is the biggest breeder and promoter of racism, segregation, and I'm not for them.
Absolutely. Give us an option. What do you want to do?
You make it now,
We have to do one or the other. If we leave it status quo, that means that massive amount of taxpayers can't access the facility. If you leave it status quo, if you put in a card system where you have to verify your cards, then everybody can access it, as long as you have your vaccination.
Yeah, they now have a choice on whether they want to access it or not.
That's what we're deciding tonight.
I see.
Whether we agree.
Her hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say, so I did talk to our 6 captains, and only 2 of them will rent 1.5 hours of ice each week, which is only 3 hours a week if we implement this program. But I feel like we'll lose a lot of the kids, and we'll lose the Red Wings if we implement this program. Adults can swim in the pool all they want. We canceled the water fitness classes that we teach, but they're still welcome to come in. We have 2 slots a week for an hour where they can self-teach and use all of our equipment. And it doesn't really, the pool's been running great. We're running at that capacity anyway. There's been no problems here. And if suddenly parents can't bring their kids in, that's going to kill us.
I will add, I've had 2 parents that, okay, I'll speak and then we'll get Councillor Daneka, who's, 2 parents have approached me that they were not able to get in the pool because they were put in a lineup because, they were already at 1/3, which is a great thing that we're filling up. And I also wonder if you talk to, the old timers as being one of those adult teams, then I'm sure that they would be interested in booking the ice. I don't know if they were one of them that had approved or if it was just rec teams.
So for that, I tried getting a hold of Peter Key, and then I went by Arlen's comments that he didn't think that they would have enough for vaccinations. The lineups were probably not because of the amount of people in here. We are really short-staffed right now. We've been advertising for quite a while. I think I have a white card in the works that we can hire. But we've had a hard time covering everything. I'm really, really proud of everyone for stepping up for the swimming lessons coming up because, I mean, it's amazing that we could fit them in for the whole month with the amount of staff that we have.
Okay. Councillor Daneka?
So we had this discussion before, and we go at 30% capacity, and as Councillor Courtney said, a lot of people will not be able to access the facilities. Their other option is to shut them down until this passes, which could be who knows how long. So in order to maintain our facilities and have people be able to use them, the, whatever you want to call it, the restrictive exemption program, the vaccine passport, whatever, is the only way to go. It's not fun to have to implement this. I've talked to different people about my day. What about my day? Most of them are in favor of this, the ones that I talk to. I mean, you're gonna have to make a decision one way or another. I mean, as of today, North Zone was at 100% capacity. Edmonton zone, I believe, was at 86% capacity. Calgary zone was at 92 or something. So, I mean, we have to, as much as we don't necessarily like to pay attention to what's being said by the government and AHS or whatever, we have to be cognizant of those numbers. 100% capacity in the North Zone. That's scary stuff. And, I mean, the only way that we're going to be able to maintain our facilities, keep them open for people to use them, is to unfortunately implement this restrictive exemption program. And I was hoping it didn't come to that, but that's where we're at.
Okay, I'll put in my thoughts is, you know what, it is unfortunate that the government didn't step up and take a real leadership role. Like was mentioned with, I think it was Councillor Corley, with what they did with the restaurants. They didn't want to put that onus on the poor restaurant owners to have to make the choice, which was good. I mean, they either closed their doors or they went to the passport system here. They're putting the onus on each of the communities. So they're just, you know, they don't want to have any blood on their hands, so they're passing the buck, in my opinion. And it's come down to us. In my opinion, you know, we do have a pandemic. This would be our part to help stem that pandemic, get those numbers under control. You know, we're hearing, we're already restricting access to our facilities. In one situation, we're restricting the people that are vaccinated. Like right now, the adults can't go into the arena. If we change it, it's the people that have chosen not to get vaccinated that would have some restrictions against them. And in my opinion, that's their choice. They are making that decision, so I think they need to make the decision of either coming or going. So they have a choice. Right now, the people that are vaccinated, the adults, don't have a choice, and to me, that's unfair. So, you know, I think we should be implementing it. I think that, you know, a lot of people will come around once, if it's in place. I don't think that, you know, the other post-secondaries around the province are implementing it. There's companies that are implementing it, and they are losing some people. But at the end of the day, most of the people are stepping up and getting vaccinated to keep moving and be able to do what they want to do. So I think it's the right thing to do. I know it's a very tough thing, especially right now. But I think what we should be doing is starting off, and not saying that this is going to happen tomorrow. I think we've got to phase this in, give everybody lots of time to get ready, but have it in place so that if we ever had to implement it sooner, and there's a choice of closing facilities or implementing this process, everybody's been warned, the process has been started, we have it in place, and away we go. So I'm thinking that this would be phased in over a long period of time, and I'm thinking, 3 months from now it would be full vaccinated or something, so that would take it into January. That would be my approach. I'll go to Councillor Long, he hasn't spoke yet.
If we take too long, then we're only exacerbating the situation with the fourth wave. The reason we have to implement this is so that we can get in front of it, not behind it. If we wait till January, the point is moot. And so we need to be be strong in our conviction that this is the right thing to do. And insofar as the Red Wings, if they think they're going to get it easier in British Columbia than in Alberta regarding vaccinations and certifications, good luck. Good luck. But the bottom line is we have to take care of the people of this town and the people who have taken the steps to get vaccinated and to have them penalized because the non-vaccinated, the people who chose not to get vaccinated, are taking up that 30% occupancy. And so we should get onto it right away, is my position.
Okay, we'll give everybody one more kick at the cats. Councillor Gilroy.
Actually, all I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna ask for a recorded vote. Just because, and the other question, the final question I have is for a CAO, and since we're following the government's, rules on this, what is their time frame as opposed to what the mayor is suggesting? What's the time frame the government says we have to use to implement this if that's the will of this government?
So there is no timeline. However, it does give certain dates as far as first and second vaccination. So to register for the exemption or passport program, there's certain rules associated with October 25th, you must have the first vaccination. X date is the second. So there's certain dates within the exemption program that you have to use. That's there. When you're going into the exemption program, you pretty much got to follow the process that's outlined in the exemption program. That's my understanding. A lot of the dates and stuff come from them. But as far as when council wants to pull the trigger, if it said implemented November 15th, well then we'd already be into November 15th. I think you already have to have your second shot. So you'd probably slot in there that there's no more phase in with only having one shot to be able to get in. Does that make sense?
And as for your request for a recorded vote, that is noted, and we will do a recorded vote. Go ahead, Ron.
I think there's one more thing I want to bring up. It's a cautionary note, and kind of look at your strategic plan and what you folks have identified as your top 2 or 3 priorities. And one of your top priorities has been healthcare for our hospital. And I'm not sure how many meetings we've had with ministers and elected leaders in the past year, but it's been several. And it's been a lot of concern from this council to make our hospital, and quoting one of our councillors, more than a Band-Aid center. So the longer this goes on, the more costly it is to the healthcare system. The government has reached out looking for support from especially northern Alberta. I think it's just watching the messaging we're sending forward. This is one thing that they're asking for, to assist in the entire healthcare system and alleviate some of the pressures. I'm not saying political leaders at the provincial level are going to watch what each individual does or each individual council does, but promoting or assisting reductions in ICUs may carry some weight in that bigger picture thing that councils wanted, which is a fully functioning hospital. So I'm just bring up one of your strategic initiatives and just for potential consideration in your voting. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Stenos, you had your finger up earlier.
Okay, so, it's just a comment. So we're gonna throw out, bullying, harassment, all that is thrown aside because we're gonna vote on who has to get a passport or not. We no longer care who's getting bullied, who's getting harassed. All that stuff doesn't matter anymore now. It's all about separating the community even more. We're already split on the face mask policy, so let's put this in and separate the community even more. That's my last comment.
All right, Councillor Sam, I would argue that, you know, the separation is already there. And yeah, we do have to make a decision on this one. And bullying and harassment still matters, but we're in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. Our healthcare system is on the verge of collapse. So yes, other things, and you know, are going to get pushed to the back burner at this point in time. Absolutely. Any other questions on this one? Go ahead, Ramona.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not really a question. I just wanted to remind you that we have a very young staff at the pool, sitting at the front desk, who will be, I agree with Councillor Stenhouse, it will be very difficult for them. They're worried already that it might come in just being bullied and harassed. And who's going to monitor this at the arenas? That's my only question.
Yeah, and some good concerns. There's no doubt about it. There would have to be some processes developed for both the arena and the pool. And administration can work on a process for that, to make it work out. Yeah, there's no doubt it's not easy. Now, we can go around and around on this, and we've already spent a good amount of time going around and around on it, last week. We know where most of the people are, but I guess we need to decide whether or not we want to implement a passport system, turn it over to our administration to look at it, or if we don't. And I know the same question is also, this is a tough one, because it's also going to Big Lakes County, because it could impact revenues, and it's a jointly managed facility that way. So they're going to be answering the same question tomorrow also. Rod, go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, our schedule actually with the county got, is a weird month. On a Wednesday, so they may be calling a special meeting, but their regular meeting is not tomorrow.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
Wednesday. Yeah.
So they may be calling a special meeting, but the regular one's not.
Oh, okay, it's the one where they're, okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you. Okay, anything different to add before we vote? All right, we have the motion, just for everybody's clear, that, I got to, and it was Councillor, was it Courtney that made the motion, or who made it? No?
Gilroy.
It was Councillor, who was it? I didn't write it
Oh,
down.
Courtly. Oh, Danaka. Yes, it was. I'm sorry. I'm on the wrong one. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the motion was that council direct administration to implement the restrictions exemption program within the two arenas and the aquatic center as soon as possible. All in favor?
Recorded vote. So I need to just take the time. Panasi is 4. Is it just 2 for 4?
Okay, and I saw by the show of hands, it was a 3-3 vote. So the motion is defeated.
So who's for? Okay.
So with that, let's take a 10-minute break. And then we'll. Okay.
So 4 was expelled, Councillor Long, Councillor Danaka.
That's correct. And against was Councillor Courtly, Stenhouse, and Gilroy. let's take 10 minutes and, we'll come back, continue on. Rod, do you wanna pause the recording while we go?